As interest rates spiral and inflation gallops on apace, the people at the low end of the totem pole continue to feel the pinch the most. With rental housing so scarce in Vancouver that planners are warning they'll have to put people into tents, it's the residents of the inner city who again suffer the most. With their welfare checks already eroded, they find their rents eating into more and more of their income. Unemployed youth move into the area and take out their frustrations on the older, long-time residents. The number of muggings goes up. Where's God in all of this? Where is Christ in the inner city? Pressure Point's Doug Goodwin experienced our inner city during a weekend urban plunge as part of his theological training at the Vancouver School of Theology. He came to appreciate the sense of community and the mutual caring that he found there, and to sense some of the problems that are there as well. He's our guide for tonight's exploration on Pressure Point.
Hello and welcome to Pressure Point. I'm Doug Goodwin, the host of tonight's show. My interest in this area of town began last September, when myself and a bunch of fellow students were suddenly plunged onto the streets for 48 hours. We were only given $5 each and expected to fend for ourselves. Much to the surprise of us all, we survived. The experiences of that time, though, left us all profoundly affected. We lined up for handouts, panhandled for money, walked up and down the streets day and night. We began to get a glimpse of what life in our society is like for many people. It was only a short exposure, but it was enough to raise some pretty profound questions. One of them was, what is the church doing? Tonight on Pressure Point, we'll try to find out.
One of the first things you notice in the inner city are the countless churches and other religious organizations. Everywhere you turn, some religious group is shouting for your attention. To cover them all would have been a trying task, so I chose 3 well-known and representative churches to concentrate on: the Salvation Army, St. James Social Service, and First United Church. No matter what major city in North America you find yourself in, chances are that somewhere downtown will be a Salvation Army harbor light. Free meals, free beds, free detoxification, and a free gospel are all offered to those who need them. At the harbor light on Cordova, I spoke first to Captain Elliott and asked him what the Salvation Army on Skid Row was trying to do.
Here to minister to the needs of people. You find a lot of people who've come from all parts of Canada searching for something. And so we try to stress upon them that something they need is not a physical change, but a change from the inside. So basically that's our mission here, to present them the gospel of Christ.
I wanted to know what his personal goal was for working at the Harbor Light.
The goal is to see men and women changed by the power of God. And that's not always easy, because many people are sort of hardened to what's been said down through the years. And if I can only see one person whose lifestyle changes, and that's a goal, that's worth working for.
And I wanted to know what he might point to as a success story.
I think of a man who came to Harbor Light 10 years ago, who literally crawled through this place, the doors back here, on his hands and knees. He was sent to our Miracle Valley Center, and he found a whole new lifestyle for himself through God. And today is very active in the Salvation Army down east. But he's coming back to Harbor Light for Christmas because he misses the Christmas times here at Harbor Light. That's a success story.
Places like First United Church are involved a lot in advocacy, social action type issues. How do you approach those type things?
Well, the Army in general speaks out on most of the major issues of our day. And certainly we're not silent when it comes to these issues, but we approach them through our own public relations department. They have statements prepared by our leaders either in Toronto or England, and but we're not silent on any of the issues that are taken up by other people.
But you speak on them more nationally or internationally than here at the Harbour Lights?
Well, the Army has certain set policies which we have to follow, but certainly we're given scope to deal with the problems as we see them right here in this centre, because, you know, how does a person in Toronto know what's happening here in Vancouver? So we're given that scope to work in that area.
So although most social analysis, policy statements, and planning are done on a national level, the actual hard work is done right here on Skid Row. Captain Lewis spoke about the work of the Harbour Light from his viewpoint.
Our position is basically taking a man who's at the bottom of the barrel that many people do not want to have anything to do with, and giving him hope and giving him an opportunity to become what he could become because of our caring and because of the gospel of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Of course, there are many steps along the way, and they include food, clothing, bed. Sometimes for he who is inebriated, it means detoxification, many things. But what are we doing? We're doing the thing that comes naturally to us, and that is taking anybody that comes, no matter what condition, and giving them the opportunity to find Jesus Christ and raise themselves to where He, the Lord, would like them to be.
I wanted to find out what someone thought who had to go to the Harbour Light for one of their worship services followed by a meal. So when Bill suggested that he had to sing for his supper, I pressed him to tell me what he thought of his experience.
I think as far as spirituality goes or Christ goes, everybody, most people are there because they're hungry. And it's sort of a form of bribery, whereas, if they go along with the services, they'll get the meal. But as far as religion goes, they're not too actively involved other than obtaining that meal.
There's no doubt that the service before the meals is singing for your supper. When I was down here, I attended the Sally Ann for a meal. I needed it. But I was disheartened by the mechanical atmosphere of the service, by the obvious boredom and the disinterest of most of the pew sitters, most of all by the ushers who looked to me more like bouncers. But there's also no doubt that lives are changed, that alcoholism is sometimes beaten, that men can regain meaningful lives. There's little acknowledgement of the social forces behind poverty and destitution, but the personal conversion approach of the Salvation Army sometimes works.
St. James Social Service is, in only a few words, a busy place. Affiliated with St. James Anglican Church, it tries to be an active arm of the church. Variety is a key. There's a full-time social worker. Victory House provides rooms for former psychiatric patients. Powell Place harbors women and children in trouble or endangered. Gastown Workshop provides jobs in crafts, brickmaking, furniture repair, and much more. There's even a beauty salon. Several of those I met were willing to speak to me about their experiences at St. James. I spoke first to Charles, who's being administered through St. James. For many on welfare, the monthly check is not given directly to the recipient, but is doled out in smaller, regular packages by some intermediary agency. Charles spoke about being administered at St. James.
But altogether now, I've been on administration for about 3 years. Yeah. And they haven't taken me off it to see if I could handle my money properly or not. So they still got me on administration, and they don't seem to ever want to take me off it. But not that I really mind either, I don't mind it either because, they look after me pretty good here. But all I know is I've been on straight cash, and I've had a bit of a hard time handling it. I go and spend it on beer and, cigarettes, and it didn't last long. Mm-hmm. I'd be broken about a week.
Not all, though, were as willing as Charles was to be administered through anybody.
Thing is this, I figure I can handle my own money.
So you'd like to get it yourself through the welfare check?
Yes.
Most of those I spoke to had high regard for St. James. Randy is one of those. Once on welfare, now he works for St. James, heading the maintenance crew.
It's a lot better than being on welfare, and the work gives you a good sense of dignity. I worked in the mill before, but compared to this, it's fantastic.
Why is this much better?
Well, get more friends around here, and you work helping people, and it's really good helping people. Not like they might do it wrong here sometimes, like they did in the past. but we still keep on doing good to the people. That's the name of the game here.
Ingrid, why are you here at St. James?
I was very sick a few years ago, and I was in a very bad state of affairs, and through the help of Dr. Lee, I found St. James, and they've helped me to recuperate, and I enjoy very much living at Victory House.
How have they helped you?
Well, they've helped me in many ways. They've given me a roof over my head and a clean place to live. And I've also they feed me, you see, like I pay for the meals, and I have really good meals here. And it's very enjoyable living here, you know.
So you really appreciate St. James being here, eh?
Yes, I do. It's helped me out immensely. They advised my doctor about the medications I should take, and right now I've been cut down to every 3 weeks instead every 2 weeks on the shots I'm taking.
So you see a big improvement through St. James?
Oh, yes, I have. I was really close to dying, actually, you know. I was very ill. I wasn't eating properly, and I had a lot of problems. But they've helped me out immensely.
Donna, why are you here at St. James?
I came from a mental hospital for about being in Riverview for 11 years under circumstances of alcohol, and got too out of control and got very, very sick, you know, and it was nice that there is a place to go when you're in need of care, because there's people, residents in Vancouver and all over, can't get into institution for help, you know, for mental health problems and treatments. Coming to St. James Victory House, you know, coming to St. James Social Service and also the Victory House has been a great deal of help and care for me. I wish there was more places, not just St. James, but I wish there was other places that could be of a help as well, you know.
And finally, I spoke to May Guttridge, Director of St. James Social Service.
May, how would you describe this area, Skid Row area?
Well, of course, I don't like the term Skid Row. I think this is the downtown east, and Skid Row is only a word used by those people that like to feel somebody's worse off than they are. It's a very beautiful area. Lots of lovely things happen down here. There's a community. People live here. Lots of our workers live down here. And I think it's a very, very nice area.
Well, in that context, then, how would you see the work you're doing down here? Well, how would you describe it?
Well, I think the work that we're doing down here is the work that's wanted everywhere. Businesses, hospitals, everywhere. It's attitude. We're down here because we feel this is our place, and all we really do is give love and attention to people. And it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter how much money you've got. It doesn't matter what your circumstances are. You have to have that one commodity, love. And if there's anything lost, it is because people don't have the love and security when they're born and for the first few years, so they're wounded. They're very wounded people, and when they end up down here, it's not money isn't the point. It's not things that's the point. It's the fact that they are in need of warmth and love, which they perhaps didn't get when they were younger. And that's all we do. We try to accept them. My friend here, he's a man, I'm a woman, we're in the same world, there's nothing different between us. And that's all it's about. We just give love. Nothing else, nothing clever. I'm not a clever person. I'm just a very ordinary, everyday person. And all I know about is love. That's all I have to give, nothing else. And it works. It's the most beautiful thing in the world.
Love. It sounds good, and you've heard from those who've benefited from it. And there's no doubt that we could always use more love down here. But is love enough? Is love tough enough, angry enough to do more than just bandage wounds? Can it prevent the wounds from happening? Can it make real changes?
Located here on the corner of Gore and Hastings is First United Church. Besides being a regular church and congregation, holding weekly worship services, the staff of First Church is involved with other social agencies and churches in trying to resolve many of the problems facing the inner city. I spoke first to Jack Schaefer about the highly visible alcoholism in the area.
Jack, when you look out on the streets, you look out these windows up and down East Hastings, what do you see?
Well, the most obvious thing that all of us see is are people boozed up. I'm sure that's the heartbreaker. There's no question that all of us, anybody I know, the police, the other agencies, every staff member, you know, from the caretaker to the superintendent, what takes the most out of us is the extent to which those who are victimized by alcohol are victimized. You wonder how they stay alive. You wonder how they survive. That's the ache.
I spoke next to Bill Hennessy. He too spoke of drunkenness in the inner city, but claimed it is a myth to believe the problem is any greater there than anywhere else in the city.
People here are not in that area probably any greater alcoholics than the neighborhood in which I live, which happens to be Burnaby, or somebody who might live in West Vancouver or South Vancouver or Point Grey or wherever. That's just a great big myth. It's visible here because people, you know, don't have the big living rooms in which to drink, so some of them to meet their friends to drink on the streets, and so there's a big myth applies. But the percentages were a little higher than most other neighborhoods.
Not only do people not have large living rooms, many live in totally inadequate dwellings.
I think probably the most critical area, the greatest need, of course, is housing. In my opinion, is probably housing is dreadful in this area. And little has been done over the years by government. About 85% live in very poor types of accommodation in hotels, often without any facilities such as being able to have a place to cook, any place to keep the food, to store the food, like refrigeration, where the heating is inadequate. Very often there's no warm water in which to wash with or to shave and to bathe, and the lighting is often very, very, very poor. Many rooms are very small, and they pay very high rents for terribly inadequate housing accommodation.
Linda Irvin echoed Bill's concern about housing before going on to point to some other problems.
One of the biggest problems for me is housing. There is so little housing in this area that is adequate for our people. And daily people come in and want adequate housing. By that I mean a self-contained unit, usually fridge, stove, not a hot plate, but a fridge and a stove, their own bathroom. So many people don't have their very own bathroom, and I really think that's important. But we don't have enough housing. The city promises 100 new units each year. That was a statement they made over the summer. I doubt if we're going to see that, and that disappoints me. We need so much housing. The other problem is an inadequate social assistance rate. When the rates went up in April, they really didn't go up all that much in accordance with the cost of living. And that was the saddest thing for me, to see that happening. Families were the big losers. They maybe gained about $10 a month on their check. However, if their housing was more than their stated shelter allowance, then what happens is that they have to take their housing, their rent money out of their support allowance, and that drops their support allowance down considerably. Then that means low nutrition. People get bad nutrition at that point. Proper foods aren't able to be bought, and people exist on macaroni, and that doesn't have much nutritional value. The other thing is that it's not an untruth when people say that people live on cat and dog food, that there are many people that do that. And even if you're on social assistance, as one lady said to me, isn't it okay to have ice cream once in a while? And I agree. Like, I think it's important for children and anybody that likes ice cream to be able to have some ice cream.
So what signs of hope are in the inner city? Again, Jack Shaver.
People choose to live here. that people choose to live here because of the qualities that are here, not just because they're victimized, and that given half a chance, those dynamics of neighborhood would grow and flower. But there's so many dynamics tramping on that's the other thing you feel called about, is if you could just get all the garden trampers and the weeds and out of here, so that all the factors that go for neighborhood could flourish instead of just have a daily battle for survival.
So what is First Church doing to get rid of the garden trampers and weeds? Through what they call advocacy work.
What is advocacy, and what's your role in that?
Your role is that so many people, and in particular the poor, are not informed or have no way of learning of the legislative rights. And in this particular community, there are the greater majority of the people are handicapped. They're not aware that there's such benefits as Workmen's Compensation Board. A lot of their handicaps are related to injuries while working in the resource industries, something which has been encouraged by the type of, the climate we live in and the province in which we live in, and the work ethic. And yet these people, they become the have-beens and so forth of this type of an economy. And they're not aware that they're entitled possibly to apply for what's known as handicapped person's income, and just a lot of other legislative benefits. And even if they should be aware, very often getting through that government red tape at different levels is too heavy and too much for a lot of the people.
So your role is to help people through some of that red tape and kind of fight on their behalf sometimes.
Yeah. Your role is to help them to get through that, and also to try to educate them. That's a big role. To learn how to work their way through it on their own. That's a big role, and educating the people, and trying to, on their own, learn how to work their way through the different difficult bureaucratic systems.
Advocacy work helps people through the systems and structures of our society. But it does more than just accept the structures, as Linda Irvin explains.
I don't think we need to accept some of the structures that are already there. I think the church needs to also advocate for change within those structures, to make the structures more simplistic so people can go through them. Also, to help the structures realize that maybe they are not meeting the needs of the people within the community, and so address those needs. And so work with the structures or challenge the structures and to pick up on different needs and respond to those. Yeah.
So would you classify yourself as a social activist?
Oh, I don't know. Some people say that about me, but I'm not sure I would classify myself as a social activist. I see myself more as a person who wants to walk with people through the structures and wants to assist people or enable others to do that which I believe they could do, but maybe need to have somebody walk with them for a while. On the other side of that, I think also of myself as being somebody who wants to be a change agent, trying to make changes in systems so that they would be more appropriate for our people in this particular community.
But as anyone knows who's lived in the big city very long, change in the inner city is very long in coming. Jack Schaefer recognized this as he spoke to me about progress.
There is no way you can be a believer in progress and look at this part of the world. You can be a believer in caring because it does make a difference. But if you needed to think that your advances stayed put and you weren't rolling that stone up the same hill again, you would be destroyed down here very quickly. I find inevitably that when we reflect on what we're called to do and set goals and set priorities and gear up in the direction of our well thought out and analyzed intentions, that most of it goes belly up. That And any blessings that show around here are almost unrelated to our planning and intentions. And now, that planning and that intention and that analysis is called for and appropriate, and I think faithfulness demands it. But in the end, the reason we do any good is because we're here and caring. And almost the good is a byproduct, or somehow that broken faithfulness, half of it misdirected, none of it succeeding, somehow that is a means of grace. And guys and gals are blessed in spite of us. Like the faithfulness has something to do with it, but it's just I can never see a direct connection between what we're faithful to and what gets accomplished or what gets to be a blessed event for anybody. I think we're just called to use our heads and listen and move when it looks like we're supposed to move. And most of that time you come up with egg in your face. But it's that stance, that presence that God can use somehow.
3 churches, 3 different approaches to the call of God in the inner city today. The Salvation Army, working to pull the individual out of the gutter by introducing him through conversion to the Lord. St. James Social Service, trying to act and live the love of God for all people. First United Church, working to change the structures of society which oppress certain people, governed by a patient waiting for the movement of God. The 3 approaches certainly aren't mutually exclusive. But where should the main energy of the church, your main energy, be directed today? How is God calling the church in the inner city? That is the pressure point for the church today. That is the pressure point for you as well. Good night.
Pressure Point is a production of Interchurch Television, a joint venture of the United, Anglican, Roman Catholic, Presbyterian, Baptist, and Lutheran churches in the BC Lower Mainland. We invite your comments and queries concerning the program. You may contact us at 1955 West 4th Avenue, Vancouver, V6J 1M7, or call us at 738-1133.